10. GLS is go for core stage engine start.
Can you get radio up in space? Well, kind of. When astronauts are hundreds of thousands of miles away from home, they can't just put on their favourite song or tune into a radio station. For missions like NASA's Artemis II program, the playlist the astronauts wake up to isn't random. The songs are actually carefully chosen to comfort them and also to motivate them when they're away from Earth. So, who decides what gets played up in space, and why is music so important? We've spoken to someone from NASA at the heart of mission control in Houston, British astronaut Tim Peake, Dr. Eleanor Armstrong, who's a space expert from Leicester Uni, and the rapper Denzel Curry, whose song was played to Artemis up in space. Can you just talk to me why music is important to the crew? How it works? How do you get music up there? What is that about, you know?
I can't speak exactly for why music is important for specifically each member of the crew, but I think just in general, I would say just the same reason why music is important for the rest of us. I mean, we all have our own morning wake up routine, but I know for me personally, what gets me sometimes in the zone, whether it's like before I go and I'm going to present and do a speech in front of a crowd, or maybe before an athlete gets ready for their game or for their race, you listen to like the playlist, you have a soundtrack on to get you in the zone. And so it's a very similar thing that we're doing for our crew. They are in space, they are by themselves, they are going around the moon. I think the least that that they can do when they wake up is to have a nice familiar song that just reminds them, I think, a little bit of home. And so this playlist that was curated, it was selected by the crew, also with contributions from their friends and their families. It's a blend of some personal favorites as well as some specific meaningful tracks for this mission.
Do you know exactly sort of how the music is beamed up to the craft at all? Do you know the sort of technicalities of that? I know that's like I don't really know how it works, So,
those songs are downloaded, and then with our team, with the flight controllers and mission control, they help be able to then broadcast that to the crew, just like how we do all of the other communications with our crews in space.
Why is music, from your point of view, and it was played on the ISS, why is it so important?
Music gives you a connection back to Earth. It reminds you of things, times in your life when you've heard that music. Maybe it reminds you of friends, of family. And so I think it's really important to have that connection. And also, depending on your mood, if you want to exercise in space, you might want to put on something that gives you some motivation to go and work out. If it's in the evening, you're taking photographs, you might want to relax and unwind, and you might want some really good music for that. So I think music is really important depending on the mood we're in, what type of music you want to listen to.
Yeah, that connection to Earth, how important is that? I've never been to space, so I don't know what that vast void, the emptiness is like. What does it feel like to have, human music played up in space?
I mean, it's quite surreal. You look back and you see the entire planet, and that's it. That's home. This lovely, beautiful sort of blue, green, white marble in the blackness of space. And for this Artemis II crew, they're 400,000 kilometers away from home, and Earth is starting to look pretty small in the window. So to actually have that music inside your capsule is really important to make that connection back to your loved ones.
And why does music get played on space missions, Doctor?
So there's a bunch of different reasons. There's a history of playing these songs in the opening of the morning on space missions that dates way back to the Gemini era, which is the second space program that the NASA ran. And this kind of draws on a longer history of military and particularly the US Navy playing wake-up songs in the morning. So some of the early songs that we see in the Gemini era include things like Hello Dolly, which was played on Gemini 6 as rendition by Jack Jones. And this was during the first rendezvous between two crewed spacecraft in space. But there's also a long history of using these songs on non-personed missions. So, for example, the Voyager mission that has gone out past the edge of the solar system into deep space also has a disc that contains lots of songs on it. Addresses from the director of the UN, popular culture songs from the United States and the UK, as well as like historic songs like historic music like Bach, and cultural music from around the world representing the diversity of human experience.
So what impact can music have? Like, does it help the astronauts focus, stay calm, or just make them alert really early in the morning?
It's to try and kind of pep their morning up and give them a good start to the day. Actually, when they played Pink Pony Club on the mission recently, the commander of the mission, Reed Wiseman, said to Houston that they were really sad that they hadn't played the chorus because everyone was really excited about singing along to the Pink Pony Club chorus. But so I think the idea is like it's meant to start the day off on a good foot, but also it's meant to signify things that are happening. So, for example, some of the previous missions during the Apollo era, they would play songs from people's universities. Often when they were coming back on the last day, they would play the Dean Martin song Going Back to Houston. So kind of it's meant to, I guess, signal something about what's happening in the mission.
The USA has literally taken humans the furthest ever. You know, is that something that like interests you?
Yeah, in the grand scheme of things, yeah. But I wasn't really following the Artemis thing. It just kind of like, I just woke up and then they was like, they played your song in space. So I was like, whoa, you know?
What does that song in particular mean to you? And has what that song means to you changed now, I suppose, since it's been played in space?
I just thought it was like, this is a dope song, especially when I didn't know what Dave was talking about on the song and I still nailed it. That was like funny. Then we get a gold record from it. So at that time, I was like, dang, like it's like, it started off being like, to me, like hilarious. Like, man, we made a really dope song, even though, even through the circumstances. And now it's like it's being played in space. Now I'm just like, oh, this has a whole second life now. Like, you know?